Hi, I'm Beth from So Country, and today's tutorial is going to be for the Heartbreaker wallet from Azcona Designs. In today's video, I'm going to be sewing up both versions of the Heartbreaker wallet. One will just have snaps to close, and the other will have a heart-shaped flap that will close the wallet. So for the main piece, we will have A. A is going to be this exterior cutout with the zipper cut out as well. This wallet is going to be a raw edge wallet, so we will be using either vinyl, cork, waterproof canvas, something like that. Since I'm making two, I will have two of these. If you're only making one, of course you only need one exterior and then one contrast. For mine, I'm going to use all vinyl from Jane R. Edwards, and then my waterproof canvas is going to be for the linings, and I think I just got this off Amazon, I'm not for sure. So this is your piece A. For the waterproof canvas, you do not cut out that zipper box. Your piece B would be a stabilizer. If you choose to use that in your wallet, you could go ahead and attach that according to the pattern directions. Your piece C is going to be the left side pocket. The pattern template has the markings to cut out your credit card slots and this spot for the clear vinyl. For me, what I do is I first use a hole punch to mark the holes, then I use a ruler to trace the lines, and then I use this scalpel to cut out that straight line. I do not have a cutting machine, so that's what I use that I feel like helps me get the best straight line. Also, something I do is I use a busy kind of pattern print to kind of hide that my lines aren't perfect. But this is what one of your pocket left pieces will be. You'll need one exterior, one lining for each of these. So since I'm doing two, I have two, but you would only need one. D will be your pocket right. You will still have the credit card slots, but this time we will not have the ID. For the D, you will need one exterior and one lining piece for each of those. E will be your clear vinyl windows. I'm just cutting out a piece of clear vinyl, so you can just use a very small scrap. You'll need one for each. F is going to be your ID lining. That will be on the back of your ID slot. Still just using that waterproof canvas for that. G is going to be your zipper pocket lining. I'm going to have two pieces for each one for the lining of the pocket. If you're doing the snap tab, you are going to need pieces H, I, and J. So for me, I'm doing mine a little bit differently. I'm going to take two pieces of vinyl and I'm going to put them together. I'm going to make sure they're orientated the right way. Mine's not really directional, so I'll still try to orientate it the best I can. I'm going to glue these pieces together, and then off camera, I'll use the pattern piece once the glue dries to trace around and get the shape I want for that snap tab. Doing it this way, I'm not going to be able to really accurately use the stabilizer, but I'm okay with that. My vinyl is secure enough that I do not feel I need stabilizer. If your vinyl needs a stabilizer, you probably wouldn't want to do it this way, or you may just want to cut out one piece, add the stabilizer, and then glue it on the other piece and then cut out around there. Just your choice on what your options are for that. So this is all the pieces we need for the snap tab or just the regular snaps on it. I'm also going to use two pieces of zipper tape, one for each wallet. I'm going to be adding a tag on each wallet. And of course I'll need a zipper pull for each wallet. I'm going to edit this clip back in because I forgot to tell you in the beginning that you will need some kind of material to make your credit card slots. I'm using landscape material, but you could also use ribbon as well. But I just want to make for sure you know that in the beginning because this will be something we definitely need. So this is what we'll need to get everything started. We are going to go ahead and get started doing some prep work. The first thing I'll do is go ahead and glue these two pieces together. I'm just going to use this Beacon 3-in-1. This is an extra step. You don't have to do it. It's just one that I'm going to do. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue. It's not really that I need a lot of glue to hold this together. I will be sewing around it. It's just going to kind of keep it together so that whenever I do cut, they're already kind of secured and they won't be sliding around. This glue dries really quick, so it'll just take me a few minutes while I'll set this aside here. While I'm waiting for this snap piece to dry, we're going to go ahead and start working on the rest of the wallet. I'm only going to be working on one wallet at a time, so I'll show you the steps with the one. Just assume that I'm doing everything the same with the other one. I won't show you the difference in this last one until we get to the part where we need to add the snaps. So everything will be the same up until that point. So we are going to start working with this one with the zipper pocket first. I'm going to do my zipper pocket a little bit differently. Kim is very okay if you want to do hacks or anything differently with a pocket. So I'm sure she'll be okay with that. Her pocket method is a great method, and it would prevent you from losing a lot of lining at the bottom. So it is the better method for sure. It's just this one's easier for me. Kind of late at night. I'm going for easy with myself, and so this is the way I'm going to do it with mine. I'm going to have one pocket lining piece right side up, my zipper tape right side up. I'm going to go ahead and sew with the seam allowance given in the pattern, matching up the raw edge of the pocket with the raw edge of the zipper. Now that I have that sewn in place, all I do is I just flip the zipper up, push that seam flat, and then I'm just going to tack this seam down 1/8 of an inch away. I'm okay giving that seam allowance because this isn't how she does it in the pattern. So I just tack that zipper tape down. And this is what it looks like. I'm going to do the same thing for this other piece. Have the lining right sides up, place that unsewn edge of the zipper tape with the zipper right sides up, and you can see my short edges are matched. The long raw edge of the zipper tape and that lining pocket are matched. Sew it again. Once again, pull that back, push that zipper tape flat, and tack it down. At this point, I want to add the zipper pull on here. I'm going to put the pull in the middle. I'm going to grab out that piece A. That is your big exterior piece. I'm going to make sure my zipper pull is closing at the top. Go ahead and center this on there. If you wanted to use double-sided tape, you could. I'm not going to. I'm just going to sew around 1/8 of an inch all the way around the box. I'm going to make sure the zipper pocket lining is evenly spaced within that window, and I'm going to go ahead and take this over the machine and sew 1/8 of an inch around the raw edge of that box, going completely around the perimeter. If you wanted to, you can leave your threads long and pull them back, or you can just back stitch, whichever way you prefer to do. Let's go ahead and go to the back. Let's push that pocket closed, and you can see that I have that overhang. Kim's method would prevent that. Also, you could also cut your other piece longer if you wanted to, the piece that would go on this side. Just a couple things. I'm okay with it being like this. This pocket will only be for coins for me, so it's okay if it's going to be a small pocket. What I will have to do is I will have to trim it down. So I'm going to go ahead and trim down the tape on both sides and trim this overhang. I'm also going to make for sure that it's kept out of the seam allowance here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So this is what I have. I'm going to go ahead and sew around these unsewn edges of this pocket to get everything closed up. So the pocket is completely finished. I'll go ahead and repeat those same steps for the other one off camera, of course. Off camera, I went ahead and cut out those two pieces for the snap tab that I had glued together. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to top stitch all around this to secure this together. For my snap tab, I'm using a riveted magnetic snap. If you are using anything else like a cam snap or the regular prong magnetic snap, you would want to make sure you put that inside so you could hide the edges in here. And even with a cam snap, you would still want to put it inside even though there is a smooth finish, because that would be kind of thick. And I think it would probably unsnap over time just because it is kind of a thicker vinyl to have to go through both pieces. Where mine's going to be riveted, it won't be a problem, so that's why I did not add a snap yet. Kim also tells us that at this point, if you want to edge coat, now's the time. She recommends using the edge paint from Mojo Sews. I did buy one of those kits based on her recommendation, but I haven't used it yet. I actually haven't even opened it out of the box. So I am not going to edge paint this one. I'm sorry, Kim, I apologize. I promise I will get better with that. That is something I want to practice and do more of, but not for this one today. So this is how the snap piece will look. I'm going to set that aside and we're going to move on to this clear vinyl window. We are going to be putting this in this space here, but we will be attaching it to the back side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it to the back like this. So I'm going to use a little bit of glue. If you don't like to use glue, you could definitely use double-sided tape. It's just my machine gives me so much trouble with double-sided tape that I rarely, unless I have to, use it. I already know I'm going to have to use it when I do the credit card slots. So that one I know I'll have to. But for this step, I can avoid it easily by just applying a little bit of glue just to keep this vinyl in place while I'm taking it over to the sewing machine. You want to make for sure the raw edge of the vinyl is above the opening enough so that you can catch it with your sewing. So make sure it's at least 1/8 of an inch. Now that I have that glued down just a little bit on the two spots, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to top stitch all around. For this step, I'm definitely going to keep my threads long so I can pull it back and tie it instead of back stitching, but you can always back stitch if you prefer. We are going to, and look what I just did. I have that the wrong side. My hearts are actually black. I'm okay because I did glue. I could take the glue off, but I'm okay with leaving it like that. It's all right. It's just our little secret there. So I'm going to sew all the way around that perimeter of the box using the seam allowance given the pattern, but basically I'm going to have my foot right against that raw edge, leaving my threads long. If you find that the clear vinyl is sticking to the bed of your machine, just lift it up a little while you sew. That is the only problem. You're not sewing directly on the vinyl, it just may catch on your machine a little bit. Now we have that top stitch all around. We are going to take this lining piece and we're going to place it on top of that clear vinyl, securing it down. Again, Kim says we can use double-sided tape. You can do that. You can use glue, whatever your preference is on this one. So when we're attaching this piece of the lining, make for sure that you go above the opening here for your ID. We're going to be stitching this closed above here. So when we flip it over, we will be stitching here, and here will be the opening that we'll put it in. So you can see there it will be the finished pocket with the stitching up here. A little confusing, I know, but the pattern gives you pictures too if you get confused by the way I'm saying it. I just don't like to give the measurements and everything on camera, just for integrity of the pattern. Again, let me go ahead and get my threads long, and I'm not going to back stitch, and I'm going to go around this box, making sure that my stitches for the top are in between that third and second opening. So now that we've got the lining for the ID slot attached, this is what it looks like from the back, I went ahead and followed the pattern instructions to add double-sided tape for making the credit card slots. The first thing it tells you to do is from that middle credit card slot, measure down and put a piece of tape. Then it tells us to put another piece of tape down from just a little bit below that middle credit card slot. Then we put one directly under the first credit card slot, and then it gives us a measurement for how far above that top slot we place another piece of tape. We are going to use these pieces of tape, and we will be adding more to make the credit card slots. I'm going to start by removing the backing for this piece of double-sided tape that is right below this middle slot. I'm then going to take one of the edges of my landscape fabric and I'm going to place it directly on that piece of tape. I'm going to leave a little bit of overhang there. I'm going to have the rest of this going up because I'm going to top stitch, and that'll secure this down here, and then I'll pull it down and that'll start creating my pocket. So this is the way it looks right now. I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to top stitch right below that middle credit card slot. This is a great time if you want to practice keeping your threads long and then tying them on the back, because it will just make for a neater look. I put my needle down right where I made that hole with my hole punch, and that's where I'm going to start sewing, and then I'll sew all the way down to that second hole punch I made. And then this will be the start of securing these credit card slots to this pocket piece and getting them made. Okay, I got there. I'm going to go ahead and lift up my needle. I'm not back stitching, just pulling along. I'm going to go ahead and pull these out and knot them off before I go on to the next step. I'm only going to show you the first set of these. Once we have the basic concept down, I won't keep showing it to you. So I just want to make sure you understand this first initial ones, and then I'll do the rest off camera. I usually do 3 knots. A triple knot is usually what I prefer to do. You can also just put a little bit of glue on that knot if you want to make sure it's extra secure. Okay, so at this point we have the stitches right here. I don't know if you can see them on camera, but my lining is still going up. I'm going to take off the backing here at the bottom, and then I'm going to pull this down. I'm not going to pull it extremely hard. I don't want it to be jerking and having it too tight, but I want it to not be loose either. So I just lay it flat, secure it on that piece of tape, kind of do a finger press. You can see all the rest of these are going down. I'm going to come up to this top slot, pull the backing off of this piece, then pull all of my landscape fabric up. Again, not pulling tight but not leaving it loose, pushing down with my finger there, flipping it over, and then now I'm going to top stitch under that first card slot that I made. Same way, pulling my threads long and not back stitching. Putting my needle down where I made that first hole punch and sewing across. I'm sewing honestly about 1/8 of an inch away from that cut for the credit card slot. I'm still going to knot my threads, but I'm not going to show you all these steps. What I do want to say is that I'm going to come up, and the pattern tells you how far to come up from this folded edge, and I'm going to place another piece of double-sided tape. So I'm placing that double-sided tape there. Going to go ahead and cut that. I went ahead and knotted those threads. So now that I've sewn here and topped and tied the threads, I'm going to take off this piece of double-sided tape. And you can see why I hate it. You'll sit here and watch me fight with it. I could glue this, but I'm not going to, where I'm using landscape fabric and it's kind of thin. But I'll take the backing off. I'll pull this down one more time. Make sure it's flat, but I don't want it pulling these pockets open, so not pulling tight. Okay, so I have that secured down there. I'm going to go ahead now, remove that last piece of backing from that double-sided tape at the top. Pull this up again. And that is going to complete the credit card slots. I'm going to trim up this piece. I'm going to use the extra for the other set. I always personally like to pull it, leave it a little long, and then fold it down and have it secured that way. The credit card slots for this set are now complete. You can test them out to make sure they work and make everything look good. So now my credit card slots for this piece are done. I'm going to set this aside. Off camera, I'm going to do all the other credit card slots for the other side, and then also for the other wallet I'm making too. You will complete these credit card slots the same way you did the first one, using the measurements given in the pattern. I finished both sides of the credit card slots, so these are done. I also went ahead and added my tag. I did see that a lot of people are adding their tag down here, so it's kind of whatever your preference is. What we're going to do now is we're going to take these two pocket pieces, your C and your D, and you're going to take out those contrast pieces. What I will do is I will take them and place them right sides together, clip it in place, and we're going to sew down that straight edge. I will do the same thing for this side, right sides together, and sew down that straight edge. After I sew down these with the seam lines given the pattern, I'm going to flip them wrong sides together and then top stitch down that edge we just sewed the straight edge. So I have both of these sewn together and top stitched. I didn't trim down the bottom yet, so I definitely need to do that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put everything together. These are the pieces we have. I am going to put the contrast piece wrong sides together with that exterior piece. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to secure mine. You can do glue, you can do tape, you can just clip, however you want to do it. I don't feel like clipping is the best way because we're going to be clipping several things together. So I just would like a little more security myself, but you can do whatever you feel most comfortable with. Before I add any glue, I want to make for sure I mark the placement of where this flap or snap, whatever you want to call it, is going to go, because I want to make sure I don't put any glue there, because I will have to kind of put that inside. I don't like to bring any pattern pieces on camera, so I will do that part off camera. So I have it marked where I'm going to place that snap tab. I'm not going to add it yet. I'm just going to make sure I leave that section unglued, untaped, whatever you want to do, just so I can slip in the tab carefully. I'm just going to put a few dots of glue, not a lot at all. I'm not worried about this being a permanent hold. I just want to make sure this kind of helps so things don't shift so much whenever I'm sewing everything else together. I also know that I will be having to trim things up at the end. Just the nature of cutting out shapes like this, since I do not have a cutting machine, it's always going to happen a little. Okay, so now here is my front. Here is the contrast. We have those wrong sides together. The next thing the pattern tells us to do is to draw two lines. We're going to start here at this top. You can see there's like a little straight area here, like kind of like a divot. We're going to draw a line from one side all the way down to the bottom. The same thing with the other side all the way down the bottom. I'm going to use chalk for this. I don't want it to be a permanent mark. And I'm just going to line up my ruler from the top to the bottom to draw that line. Again, I'm going to do that off camera just so I'm not having the ruler around the pattern pieces. Okay, I have those two lines drawn from the top to the bottom. You can see them there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to start clipping these little pockets into place. I'm going to make sure I clip on that outside, matching up that outside first. And then just adding the clips around there. I'm trying to also be careful that I don't kind of like push and rub around to mark off all that chalk I just placed. So I'm trying to be a little mindful of that as well. Before we can go any further with anything, we need to go ahead and take care of all these snap placements. So I'm going to use my hole punch here to just go ahead and put the magnets in place. I am not going to press them. I will do that off camera. So I'm just going to make a couple of holes here. I'm using the pattern pieces to know exactly where I'm going to punch these holes. And then I'm going to use these magnetic snaps. I love to use these, so even though I'll have all this sewn together before I push them, it's really convenient to be able to wait till the end to do these last few steps. So the pattern tells us what we can do is we can push those down together and kind of lock them in place to make for sure we like where we're going to place this. We are going to place this between, and let's go ahead and have it kind of like we are going to have it shut. And we will place this between the exterior A and the contrast A. So you can see this is where it's going to go, and I'm going to sew it in place so it can be able to be sewn together and close everything up. I like the placement pretty good there, so that's what I'm going to do. I might tuck it in a little bit further. I don't want it sticking out too far. What do you think? I think that looks good. The only thing I want to be careful about is like in this area I won't be able to trim, so I want to make for sure that I definitely get these two edges lined up right here. You can see I have an overhang. I want to make sure I take care of that because once I get all this sewed down, it'll be really hard to trim around this area. So now that I have that in place kind of the way I want it, I'm going to go ahead and add just a few clips there, and then I will unsnap it so I can sew around that area. From the exterior side, this is the way where we'll be sewing it from this side. This is the way it looks from the inside or the contrast side, however you want to call it. So what I'll do is I'm going to make for sure that this area looks good, and it does. Everything's lined up on this side. This side I'm not worried about so much because I can trim it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on the right side of stitching, and we're going to stitch around this exterior twice, and then we are also going to stitch on these two lines once. This is going to make sure that everything is secure. The pattern does tell us the order which she suggests we sew it in to make sure you have the least amount of stitches or crossover so everything looks really neat. Kim is very good about trying to help get the neatest, cleanest look on a pattern. So what she has you do is start at the right bottom corner and you go all the way around, and then you pivot and go up and come down here. Then you're going to go back around that second row of stitches with a bigger seam allowance to come back again here. We won't sew those lines twice, just around the outside perimeter twice. When I take this around the machine, I'm going to give myself a little bit of firm pressure on this to make sure everything kind of stays flat and we have everything matched up and lining properly. Definitely consider if you want to pull your threads or if you want to backstitch, or Kim gives you the suggestion that you can even put your threads in here to kind of hide them for an even neater look. So I went ahead and trimmed up around the edges, moved everything up. This one's pretty much done. I need to go off camera and go ahead and press those snaps into place. So I'm going to do that. I'm also going to show you that I didn't complete the second one. So this one, what we're going to do is we're just going to use the snaps. We're not going to use this heart flap. In case you'd want to do it this way, this is a different option. So I'm going to pull back out my hole punch, and I'm using the pattern measurements, the markings on the pattern, to poke a hole through, and I'm doing this through all of mine because I have these riveted snaps that I can do that with. If you don't want to, you definitely don't have to. You can just go through one layer. If you wanted to go through one layer, or if you wanted to use the prong snaps, you would definitely want to do this before you stitch together. Since I'm choosing to use these magnetic ones, I can just go through all the layers, so that's what I'll be doing. Let me go off camera and put all the magnetic snaps in place and rivet them, and then we'll come back and look at our beautiful wallets. We have two beautiful Heartbreaker wallets done from Azcona Designs. This is an adorable pattern, super quick to come together, especially if you're someone that likes unique wallets. This is a great one. My vinyl is from Jane R. Edwards. My tags are from Heartwood and Hide. Of course, I'll have everything linked in my description. Let's open them up. Well, first let's look at the back. We have our zipper for coins or anything small that you don't want to lose, your chapstick, whatever. Open it up. And you have a place for your phone inside the slip pockets. You have your credit card slots and your ID holder on both of these. Two different options, a flap or magnetic snaps without the flap. There will be a couple different flap options that are included in the pattern. You'll see other testers using those to kind of show how they look. Also in this pattern, you'll have the SVG. So if you have a cutting machine, that makes it super simple and quick, and you'll be able to cut these out in no time. Thanks for watching another one of my tutorials. Thanks to Kim for letting me make this tutorial. And I hope that you are able today to sew something fun, unique, and just beautiful in your sewing room. Thanks again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.